Hey, good morning, everybody. What is going on? I know not all of you are in the United States, but where I am, it is 9 o'clock. So thanks for tuning in. And to all of you who are catching the replay or listening on the podcast, it's great to see you as well. So today, this is the first live stream. And what I'm going to be trying to do over the course of the next, who knows, at least until May 11th, is to keep a daily live stream going. I'm going to try to keep these a little bit casual. I brought my cup of tea with me. So when you guys show up, don't feel bad if you're eating breakfast or hanging out. But yeah, so we're doing good. For those of you who are wondering about our family, we're in beautiful South Florida. And so it is getting hot, but unless we lose power or something really crazy happens, my family and I, we're going to be okay. And so I've reached out to a lot of you already via video, and I'm working on reaching out to the rest of you as well. But definitely interested in hearing how you guys are going. So if you want to drop in a comment really quick, even a thumbs up, and just let me know that you guys are doing okay. I know some of you are on lockdown. I got some friends across the planet who are, hey, Mark McKellen, nice to see you. I got some friends across the planet, even one friend right now who he's been in quarantine for 14 days, and his family is actually overseas. And he has a newborn baby, and he's going to be stuck in the United States, it looks like, till at least May 11th. So I know a lot of you are going through some really hard times. And after some conversations yesterday, some people had asked, like, could we just get on and jam for an hour and just connect and talk and have some community? And that's what we're going to do. And so the purpose of these with my military community friends is really, I just want to serve you over the coming weeks, in the coming months. I'm not here to sell you anything. I don't have a pitch at the end of this. And so there's not going to be like hey, sign up for this $50, $100, $1,000 course. I really just want to give you guys something that you can take away and use today. So that's what we're going to do. As you already know, I know a lot of you are working from home or you're doing a hybrid, and it's a new way of working for a lot of you. For me and my family, we've been literally working from home for almost a year now. So since we left the military, not only have we been working from home, but we've been leading teams at home as well. So I have a team of about 6 people and that I lead here inside of Giant. And we work together. We do remote meetings, remote collaboration, remote project management. And so I have some perspective I can bring to you guys that will hopefully help you and your families as you go through this. But the flip side of that I think a lot of people don't expect is that when you start working from home full time, your family dynamic changes. Everything that you think about how your family works, all of a sudden, none of the rules almost apply anymore. None of the rules of engagement, none of the standard operating procedures have the same effect that they used to have when especially if you have a stay-at-home spouse and, you get home at the end of the day and, you walk through the door, you're the white knight ready to save everyone. It's much different when you guys are home all day and friction kind of builds up because we don't understand the new rules, boundaries, limitations, and the new rules of engagement. So we're going to cover some of that stuff on this, on the live streams. Another one is it is a new way of leading. For a lot of people, we're high touch. And there's a lot of you who are extroverts or who are just really used to leading in a high touch environment where you can literally see on somebody's face when things aren't going well, and you can walk into their office and you can communicate and you can leave people better than you found them. And when we're working from home or we're working in a geographically dispersed digital kind of way, that high touch almost, it takes a lot of intentionality. And so what we're going to do on this episode in particular is we're going to kind of lay a groundwork for what we're going to talk about over the course of the coming weeks. But I want to leave you with something really high impact that you can put into practice today. So when we leave this live stream, when you guys walk away, hopefully your family will be different and your experience will be different. So what we're going to do, I'm going to share my screen here. Cool. Give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen. I know there's a bunch of people watching, so give me a thumbs up or a comment. Let me know that you can see my screen, that everyone's working. This is the first time I've actually used this program. So hit me, someone, anyone. All right. I'm going to assume that you can see it. So as we enter into this season, one of the biggest things for all of you and for me as well, which I really struggle with, is intentionality. And that if we don't enter into this season with intentionality, anything that we do is going to have an accidental effect. And 6 months from now or 3 months from now, even, we're going to end up somewhere that we didn't anticipate or that we didn't intend. And there's a lot of people that I talk to right now who are naturally super intentional. And that while they're going into the season, they're signing up for classes, they're doing things with their spouses, they're waking up and playing with their children. And then there's some of us who are acting like it's still the weekend. And we're going to go into the next 5 days, the next 7 days, the next 14 days, like it's 30 days of leave. And we're going to do the absolute bare minimum that we need to keep the lights on. And then when this is over, we'll hopefully get back to life as normal. And from my personal perspective, I don't think life is ever going to get back to normal for a lot of people. And inside of the military ecosystem, you guys are really lucky because no matter what happens, the paychecks aren't going to stop unless there's an actual budget crisis and Congress and the president can't actually keep paying you. Generally speaking, your paycheck is going to keep coming, your healthcare is going to keep flowing, and the commissary stocks will get reshelved at a priority. And so you guys have a different set of problems than people in the civilian sector have. There's people in the civilian sector who are already being laid off. They don't know if they're going to be able to meet their mortgages. The federal government is talking about sending out stimulus checks over the next couple of months, which can help temporarily, but long term, it's not going to be a solution. And so for you guys, your problems are different, and your outcome at the end of this is different. You will go back to work. You will go back to life as normal. And so what I want to help you with over the next couple of weeks is, how do you guys build better relationships while you're at home? I don't want you and your families to be sitting at home going, good Lord, can we go back to work already? Because I'm so sick of my kids. I'm so sick of my wife. I'm so sick of my husband. How do we just get back to normal again so that we can all start to stand each other the way that we used to? And I think that if that's where you are 6 months from now or 3 months from now, it'll be a tragedy and it'll be time wasted. And so the first thing I'll say is, we have to be extremely intentional as we go into the season. And it doesn't mean that you can't take a break. A lot of you deserve it. And some of you are going to surge during this process. You got to take a break where you can get it, but start where you are. And what I mean by that is, if we look at preppers, some of us, as we're going into this season, our lives, and in this, I really am using the analogy for relationships. Some of our relationships were bare when we walked in. Some of us have conflict on a daily basis with our spouse. Some of us are alienated from our children. Some of us are really struggling just to maintain our mental health on a daily basis. And so we walk into this season of crisis and our shelves are already bare. And some of us have been intentional, and some of us have a healthy stock in our relationships and with our family. We have normal day-to-day interactions with our children. We look forward to spending time with each other. Our spouse feels loved and feels connected. And both of these, I don't want to say that one is not better than the other. Obviously, I would rather be here than to be here. But lamenting over where you are as a family, if you're sitting at home right now and you guys can't stand each other and it's only been 3 days, you just have to understand that this is where you are. And you can do something about it, or you can live with it. And I've done both. Like, my family and I, my wife and I have been married for a really long time. And we go through seasons where it feels like this, and we go through seasons where it feels like this. And there are times with my son, who's now 16, who I love more than life itself. And there's some times that our relationship feels like this. And there's sometimes that our relationship feels like this. And as we go into the season, we always look at the 5 circles of influence. And this will be really familiar to a lot of you, which is this idea that we have influence, or let's even scrap that. And we're going to say health for today. And we have health inside of our self ring, our family ring, our team ring, organization, and our community, how healthy our relationships are, and our perspective and our place. And the idea is that if we're not intentional in the center, that this continues to get more rotten as we go out. Most of us apply time to the community, organization, and team, and don't apply nearly as much time to family and self. And I think that's because there's short-term consequence to neglecting the outside rings. If we neglect community, organization, and team, we'll often hear about it, and we'll hear about it right away. So, if you don't do your job, if your boss calls and you don't answer the phone, there's short-term consequence to that. There's no short-term consequence to neglecting family and self. I can neglect myself until literally I get cancer, I fail a PT test, I get diabetes. Then I have to double down and start living healthy. I can neglect my family. I can neglect my wife for years. We've been married for so long. I could probably neglect her for like 2 to 3 years at this point before she would leave me. There's no day-to-day consequence other than maybe a fight. And so we have this tendency to focus on the outside rings, thinking that someday we're going to make up for it and we're going to get to these inside rings. But what a lot of you are experiencing right now is that, hey, look, you've got all the time in the world now to focus on family and self, and you're still going to struggle to do it. Because if it wasn't a priority when you were at work, if it wasn't a priority when you were living day to day before, it's not going to be a priority now. If it was important to you before, then the rings would be healthier. And so what we have to do is we have to take a step back and decide at this point what it is that we want to work on and what it is that we want to sacrifice. And so I want to talk about this tool, which is called Driving Team Performance. And I believe that when we're working from home, or when we're working in the office, or when we're looking at our family, these 5 areas are critical to our success. Absolutely critical. So the first is communication. The second is relationships. The third is alignment. The fourth is execution. The fifth is capacity. And to define these a little bit, when we look at communication, what we're really talking about, does everyone speak? And do they feel heard, valued, and appreciated? And that's what we're going to focus on today, especially in relation to this crisis. The second one is relationships. Do we trust each other? Do we like each other? Do we get along? Do we enjoy being in an office together? Or are we just a group of people working towards a common goal? Alignment. This is roles, responsibilities, vision, mission. Does everybody know what they're supposed to do? Is everybody on the same page? Execution is innovation, productivity, and efficiency. And then capacity. Do we have the ability to grow, or do we have the ability to take a hit and keep going forward? Do we have the ability to deploy people and keep moving forward? And so what we believe is that when these 5 areas are healthy, that our team performance continues to increase over time. And that when these 5 areas are not healthy, that, oh, look at that, that our team performance degrades over time. And what we think is that when we have an execution or a capacity problem, that we have a tendency to go back to alignment. Is everyone on the same page? Does everyone understand? Does everybody know their role, their responsibility, the rules, the boundaries, the limitations? But the limfac or the logjam in our families, in our relationships, in our teams, is communication and relationships. And to give you an example, when I have a problem with execution with my children, what I often want to do is I want to sit down with them. I want to yell at them. I want to let them know what's going on, where they're falling short. I want to align them with what it is that I want them to do. But if I have a problem with my children, over time, alignment will not improve the relationship. Alignment will not improve when they move out of the house. Alignment doesn't keep them calling and coming home. Communication and relationships is what gets them home at Christmas. And so when we have execution problems, we have to go all the way back to communication and relationships and work on those areas. And then all of these others start to move forward. And so with communication and relationships in today's live stream, I think one of the bigger issues that we have inside of our homes and in our families is this idea of future and present orientation. And this can be a complicated concept to master. But the basic idea is that about 70% of the population is what we would call present oriented. And so if you're a guardian or a nurturer, you're a present oriented voice, meaning that you're sensory, if you're doing MBTI, that you live by what you can see, taste, touch, hear, smell, that is reality. If you're a future oriented voice, pioneer, creator, connector, and intuitive voice, your vision of the future can often sometimes feel more real than your present reality. And this causes major communication issues. And if I look at my wife and my relationship, my wife is a nurturer. She's a present-oriented voice, and I am a creative. I'm a future-oriented voice. And as we look at the crisis, what ends up happening is that as we look at, let's say, store shelves are emptying out, or the government puts out a plan that says, hey, look, we may be shutting down for 18 months. I'm a future-oriented voice. So my response to her is going to be about either how we can profit in this situation or how the future is going to be better than the present. And I'll tell her, hey, look, babe, China's already going back to work. Hey, look, they're taking their masks off in China. It's going to be okay. And what my wife hears, because she's a present-oriented voice, is that, you know what? He doesn't care about what we're about to go through. Because if he did, when I brought up my concerns, he would be talking about why the shelves are not stocked, how we're going to eat today, how we're going to maintain sanity with the children, how we're going to get through today. And me being a future-oriented voice, if I start talking about the future, oh man, it's so great. Hey, look, housing prices might drop. We can get a new house. Hey, look. What my wife hears is that I don't have a regard for the now and that I'm living in this dream world. And so when we're thinking about a future-oriented voice and a present-oriented voice, if you're a future-oriented voice, the onus is on us to listen to the concerns of our guardians and nurturers and spend our time building the bridge for them so that they can see how we're going to get through today. If they understand how we're going to get through today, then they're willing to believe in a bigger, brighter version of the future. And so an idea the basic idea of that is that if we're looking at China as the future, hey, look, China's going back to work. Factories are reopening. If the guardian and nurturer understands how we're going to get to that point here, hey, look, we can survive 6 months, babe. We're going to do this. We're going to get food. We have this stocked up in the pantry. We have this stocked up in our bank account. then they're going to be much more likely to listen and be excited about where we're going. And so as you're listening to the concerns of your spouse, as you're listening to the language of your children, understand if they're future oriented or present oriented. For our future oriented spouses and children, helping them understand that this is going to get better, helping them understand that this will pass, and using evidence of other countries is extremely helpful for them because it gives them hope for the future. When we have guardian and nurturer spouses and children, talking to them about current reality, current limitations, current solutions to real problems is what's going to get them through today. This stops nightmares for future-oriented voices. If we talk about society's not going to collapse, if we talk about China and Korea as the examples, future-oriented voices' nightmares are more likely to subside because their worst-case scenario starts to diminish. If we're talking about how we restock the pantry and how we serve those who are most in need, the nightmares of our guardians and our nurturers start to diminish. And so it's extremely important that we crack that communication code with our future and our present oriented voices. So if you have any questions, throw them in the comments right now, and I can spend some time answering your questions or elaborating on this a little bit more. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about the communication code. So I'm going to try to keep these 20 to 30 minutes. They may go as long as 60 if I get super excited. But yeah, drop a comment in if you have a question you want me to answer. Otherwise, I'm going to kind of wrap it up. You guys, thanks for tuning in. We got up to 14. That was more than I was expecting on a last minute notification. So it's great to see you guys. Stallings, Mark McKellen. I can't see everyone who's on because of the program that I'm using. The last thing I want to leave you with, I said there was no pitch, and there certainly isn't. We put together something on Giant TV. So if you go to giant.tv/remote/military, we're putting together a series, and it's releasing. There's a lot out there already, but you can go out there and watch it right now for free. You don't have to put in a credit card like you normally do. It's all about remote work and how to lead remote teams. I'm going to be doing a masterclass on this next week where I go over the logistics of leading a team remotely. How do we video conference? How do we remote project management? How do we communicate as a team when we're not all in the same room doing the same thing? So Monday morning at 9 a.m., tune into that. And I'll get an email out on that. But you really want to share that with as many people as possible because I'm going to go through the guts of how you lead a team. You can't do PowerPoint and shoot a PowerPoint out in this current environment and expect that that's going to get everyone aligned and communicating. So giant.tv/remote/military. Go to that. You don't have to put in a credit card. So super great. And then military@Giant Worldwide. That's my email address. And so if you want to talk about your team and kind of help you guys specifically, I do not and will not charge in this season for any of these services. So we can do a call, we can jump on, and I can help you in a very practical way. And just know, there's no upsell. So cool. Kenny, what's up, man? I'm so sorry that, I'm glad you tuned in, man. So what are some practical ways to be intentional with your family? Yeah, this is a great question. So first I would say, hey, look, everyone in the comments, drop your practical tip. And so for Kenny, he said, what are some practical ways to be intentional with your family? For you guys, if you could drop your practical tips in, I'll share some of them up on the screen. So get to typing. I'll share some of mine as well. So I'm going to go over next week what we call the 5 gears. And I know that you've been through the 5 gears before as well, but creating intentional present time. So there are some families that I know who for Christmas, they don't give presents, P-R-S-E-N-T-S. They give presents, P-R-S-E-N-C-E. And don't check my spelling because it may be wrong. But the idea of intentionally setting aside time to be with your family. That is first and foremost is where it's at. My wife put out a video yesterday where she talked about how spending 15 minutes of quality time or individual time with each child is a really great way to set them up for success. So if you spend that 15 minutes with them, they're less likely to be tugging on your sleeve all day going, Mom, Dad, look at me, because you've already filled their love tank. They know that you care and they know that you're listening to them. One of the things that I do is we do Friday night fun time with my big kids. And so we haven't been as intentional lately. I want to give some transparency, but especially when we're in Germany, every Friday night we played board games or watched a movie. With being intentional in this season about not sitting in your home office, but going downstairs and eating lunch with your family every day is a huge way to be intentional. Setting aside time with them to read to them at night. One of the things that I do personally, and I'm not bragging, it just is, I put my girls to bed at night. Not because my wife doesn't like to, and not because I want to take that away from her, but it's just one way I can be intentional in two ways. I can show love to my wife by doing the bedtime routine. And even when my big kids were little, I would do the baths every night, get them dressed every night, their bedtime snack, and put them in bed. So that built a bond with me and my children. But then it also intentionally shows love to my wife, because then at night after dinner, she gets to shut off. And as an introvert, that's really important to her and to me as well. And so that's one way you can be intentional with your spouse. You could be intentional with your children. And I think that is the key. Is what we have a tendency to do is when we're at work, we go, 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 go. And if our family calls us, we're too busy. Hey, I can't talk right now. I got this thing. Hey, I can't talk. I got this thing. You will translate that lifestyle to home. I know it because I do it. You get home and you're just as busy as you were before. And if you're not busy with work, you'll be busy with projects. Lawn has to be mowed. Garage has to be cleaned. Garage has to be cleaned. All these things need to be done. And so if you're not intentional about connecting with your family before, don't think circumstance doesn't change your reality, doesn't change relationship dynamics is a better way to say that. And I think that so many of us think I'm going to be home and that's going to change my relationship dynamics. And that's often not the case. It's often going to make it worse, because when we get home, we're not as intentional, and then it becomes inexcusable. And I think that that's a really big thing to understand, is that when you're at work and you come home at 5 or 6 or 10 for some of you, your family excuses it because they know that you're busy at work. But then when you get home and you go 8 hours and you didn't spend 1 hour with your children, what's the excuse then? And they see that. So it hurts so much more when you're too busy for them, but you're home all day. And I think that is one of the biggest lessons that I learned when I discovered that I had sleep apnea. So when I had sleep apnea, I would literally I'd go to work. And even when I was an ALS commandant, I would come home and I would pass out right on the floor. 5 o'clock would come and I'd be asleep. I would be talking to my wife mid-sentence. She would be speaking. I would pass out. And, they would excuse it because something was obviously wrong with me. And I got diagnosed with sleep apnea. And then, so I started using a sleep mask at night. And all of a sudden I had all this energy. And 5 o'clock would come. 6 o'clock would come. And then I would want to work. I would want to be productive. And when my kids would see me at the computer at night, or I would be doing something on the phone with work or whatever, that was unexcusable. Because it wasn't, oh, something's wrong with dad. Now it's something's wrong with dad. He doesn't care. And I think that that's a really big deal. Your kids will excuse a lot when they know that you're at work. But when you're at home and you have time and you don't give them that time, that's tough. So yeah, Kenny, I hope that helps. Rob said, simple thing we do is set a schedule, especially during the break from school. 8 a.m. breakfast, 10 a.m. trivia, 12 lunch, all the way down to bedtime. Allows us to be intentional with the family. I love it. Rob, I would love to hear, you can post this in the comments. I would love to hear from you how the schedule feels to you. Does it feel liberating, or does it feel, do you have the flexibility you need? So Rob he's a connector creative. And so for him, being a future oriented voice, being a P, he's going to be a little bit less schedule orientated, right? Schedule's going to feel more constraining to him than it will to Lynette, his wife. So Rob, I'd love to hear how that feels to you. But for a lot of people right now, a schedule is life. And for a lot of your kids who are used to a schedule is life. And being intentional means don't let this feel like the weekend. And it's okay to take a break. Y'all have earned it. But if you let this feel like a weekend, idle hands are the devil's playthings, and you'll start to drift out of purpose. And when we start to feel like we don't have a purpose, morale goes to the floor. People are happier when they're working hard. People are happier when they have structure. So I love it, Rob. Thank you for that. Excellent. Well, guys, this is Building the Bridge. Tomorrow, we're going to do what's called the communication code. I love the communication code. It's going to change your life, change your marriage. We're going to do it at 9 a.m. tomorrow, exactly the same time. Then on Monday, 9 a.m., we're going to be doing a masterclass on the guts of working at home. How do we work from home? Managing a team at home is better to say. So cool. For now, if you guys want to go out, giant.tv/remote/military, you don't have to put in a credit card or anything. These are just some free stuff that we threw out there to help you guys. They're shooting them in the Oklahoma City office, which is great. And message me, military@giantworldwide.com. If you want to connect, I'm not going to charge. Just let's work on your team and see how we can build you guys up. And Kenny, last comment. We have a flexing schedule with the baby, and we do dinner time at the table and devotion time. I love it. And this is one of the things we talked to our kids about last night. There's a lot of families right now who are eating dinner together for the first time in a long time. And there are some things you can do to be intentional. There are some apps like Family Conversation Starters and some other things, but I love it. This is a really good way. But Kenny, I would, to answer your original question, be intentional, set aside time, schedule it if you have to. So this is great. I'm going to end the broadcast now. I'll download a copy and post it to YouTube so that you guys can share it if you want to share it. Thanks for coming on this journey with me, 9 a.m. every day. If a better time works for you guys, email me, military@giantworldwide.com, and we'll see. I feel like the engagement on this was great. But yeah, it's great to see you guys. Talk to you soon. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great day, everyone.